on one condition. And that condition was this: you can do whatever you want as long as it is not a threat to the state. So if you're harmless, we'll leave you alone. But if you cause a stir, and if you fight the power, and if you try to recruit others to do the same, then you're going to have a big problem on your hands. So just with those details, you can just begin to see how things were going for this group of Christians. Follow Jesus, and you put yourself and your family and your security and your freedom all at risk. And if that kind of thing goes on for long enough, it's going to wear you down. It's going to discourage you. And it's going to be totally natural for you to ask yourself, is this really worth it? Do I have it in me to keep going in this direction? If I keep exposing my family and keep exposing myself in this way, I just risk everything. Maybe the best thing or maybe the easiest thing for me to do is just give up, throw my hands up, and just go back to doing whatever I was doing before I became a Christ follower. So take that and put a pin in it really quick. And let me ask you that question. Have you ever felt that same way before? Has life ever pushed you to the edge so far that you've questioned your faith? Was it an illness? Was it the death of someone you love? Is it a broken down relationship? Is it unanswered prayer? Have you been pushed to the brink where you thought to yourself, I've done everything that I can do. I'm trying to honor God and follow Jesus, and even as I do that, it seems like I'm just opening myself up to more trouble. And if you have felt that, have you ever had the next feeling of, well, maybe I should just pack it in. Maybe it would be easier if I wasn't a Christian. Maybe I could just go back to whatever I was doing before. If you have ever had those feelings, know that those are the exact same kind of feelings, the same experiences that these first Hebrew Christians were feeling. And the writer of Hebrews knew this. So because he knew this, he also knew that what they needed wasn't some sort of cute pep talk. What they needed wasn't a cute one-liner that you could post on Instagram or Facebook to show off to all your friends. What he knew was that they didn't need some sort of guilt trip. What they needed was a strength that produced endurance and commitment. He knew that they needed to be encouraged. He knew that they weren't lazy. He knew that they were just tired and discouraged. So if you chronology, like when was Jesus born? No, it's actually more about status. Who is this person? What belongs to them? What are they doing? It's about rank. It's about Jesus taking the lead. It's about Jesus being the forerunner. And it's ultimately about Jesus carving that path towards us so that he can ultimately rescue us. And a big part of that has to do with Jesus acting and moving and guiding creation towards God's aims. Think of it like this: that the God who creates is the God who redeems, which means Jesus guarantees his work, both parts and service. He not only starts, but he's going to finish. He has the power to create, but he also has the power to preserve. And Hebrews tells us that it's the Son, and only the Son, who has done this or who can do this. And he sits at the right hand of the Father as the ruler, as the King. He sustains everything. Everything exists only because he allows it to exist. And everything that exists is totally dependent on him. So then, if Jesus is the first and final word on everything, and the word after that is maybe yours and mine, and it's this question: well, what does any of that really have anything to do with me? And what does any of that mean for these first Hebrew Christians? Because you see, for them, in their discouragement, these first readers of Hebrews were slipping. And they were slipping because they were losing the plot. So the writer of Hebrews says, well, what's the remedy for that? Okay, guys, we're going to calm things down. We're going to focus it. We're going to bring everything back to the most rudimentary, basic building blocks of our faith. if you're feeling disconnected, if you're feeling wobbly, if you're feeling disoriented, Hebrews says, okay, let's all bring this back to square one. So then for you and I this morning, the questions of Hebrews are being asked of us. For those of us who feel broken and beaten down and tired and discouraged, and you want to throw your hands up and just say, forget about it, Hebrews questions you and says, do you believe? Do you believe that God has spoken and that God still speaks? That He's trying to talk to you, get a message to you, only if you'll hear, only if you'll listen. And for those of us who identify as Christians, we also recognize that we speak on God's behalf. So when you speak on God's behalf, does it sound like God? Does it sound like Jesus? Does your opinion and God's opinion, do they match? When you rant about politics or immigration or economics, does that sound like you? Or does that sound like God? So for those of us in the room this morning that are tired, discouraged, beaten, and broken down, and we want to throw our hands up and say, forget about it, Hebrews asks us, do you believe that Jesus is God? That He is exclusively the Savior, that He is your Savior, that He is the first and He is the final word on what God looks like? So then do you, in turn, as a disciple of Jesus, do you look like Jesus? When people look at you, are you the spitting image of Jesus in the way you handle your spouse and your family and your kids and your coworkers and your enemies? To those of us in the room this morning who are beaten down and broken and tired and discouraged and want to throw our hands up and say, forget about it, Hebrews asks, do you believe that Jesus is not only your creator, but that He is also your sustainer? That He will make good on His promises. That He says that you don't have to worry because He's going to take care of everything. That His renewal of all things also includes you and your life. So if you're here this morning and you're under duress, if you feel like you're losing the plot, like you're slipping, Hebrews offers you a reminder of the basics. And that is who God is, and in light of that, who you are. Hebrews 1 wants to bring us down to the basics, to square one, to the rudimentary building blocks of our faith by asking the question, do you believe? Attracted to that. We are so focused on the package that we forget what it's for. We forget all about the contents. One last one. If you have ever hung out with kids on Christmas morning, you know what happens, right? 5 minutes after the new toy is unpacked, what is the kid playing with? The box. And that is exactly what is happening to Hebrews, and that is the exact same danger that you and I can potentially find ourselves in today. We can get easily sucked into the packaging, so much so that we miss the contents. And now we're not going to be like the people in Hebrews where the danger is that we might start worshiping angels. That's not really in our warehouse. But there are different types of church packaging that draw us in, that steal the attention away from Jesus, who is the main attraction, who is the content of our faith. So let's apply it here to Lakeview. Lakeview has got some pretty sweet packaging. I'm not going to lie to you. Music, some great music here. It's fantastic. Preaching out of this world. Like God's gift to preaching, like right here. All the programs for youth and kids, incredible. Look at this building. Look at the seat you're sitting in. It's so soft and cushy, and it's got that cup holder that can hold a big gulp if you want it. Those are the biggest cup holders ever. Amazing. Such pretty and beautiful packaging. And hey, all those things are cool. All those things are important to a degree. All those things are intentional and are in service of what we're doing. But as important as they are not the point. So then for you and I this morning, may we remember that the main attraction, the contents, the reason we do what we do here, the reason why Lakeview Church exists is because of Jesus. Only, ever, and always Jesus. And everything else is just packaging. Now think about it. Because sometimes in churches, not only do we get attracted only by the packaging, but we can get upset about the packaging, right? Oh, the music today. It was too loud. It was too soft. There's too many old people on stage. There's too many young people on stage. I don't know those songs. I know too many of those songs. I'm upset. Well, it's a good thing it's just packaging, right? It's not the point. It's helpful, it's useful, it's important to a degree, but properly weighted, it's just packaging. Oh, but I'm kind of turned off by church. Why? Well, because a leader has disappointed me. A volunteer really didn't do what they were supposed to do. The pastor isn't so good. One of the other leaders hasn't treated me right. Someone didn't look at me. There's someone in my row today that didn't smile at me when I sat down. I'm going to give up on church, throw my hands up and say, forget about it, God. I don't need this. Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry your feeling was hurt. It's a good thing that all of that is packaging, right? The leadership and the volunteers and the programming and the seats and the people and all that. It's all important. It's all part of the mix. But it's only and ever packaging. And I'll allow you later on in the week to make some other connections in your mind